Hello and welcome to St Botolph's first ever online Advent craft evening. I'm Rachel and I'm part of a team who have put this evening together, and we hope it will inspire you as we head towards Christmas through the season of Advent, and that it will lighten the darkness that some have felt during the past year. We've had to learn many new skills in the past few months, haven't we? New technology, new ways of meeting each other, new ways of working, new ways of going to church. And perhaps we've discovered new places to walk and appreciated our own countryside more than ever before. This time last year we had 96 people crammed into one room doing crafts and listening to a talk. This year you don't have to turn out on a cold winter's evening. You can attend the Advent evening from the comfort of your own home. So draw the curtains, light the fire, light the candles, get some tasty nibbles and some mulled wine or your favourite brew, and let's enjoy this evening together as we look forward to Advent and Christmas. Christmas brings promise of light in a dark world, hope for those in despair, and peace with God. So please, relax and enjoy the evening, whether you are on your own or with friends, and I will see you later.
Thank you, Rachel, for that really warm welcome. My name's Rosie and I'm going to guide us through this evening. We're going to start with a craft and then we're going to listen to a short talk from the lovely Beverly, and thereafter we're going to have two more crafts.
I'm going to try and show you how to fold these napkins into a Christmas tree. Here's one I made earlier. It's the gold one, and that is the green one. So in your box you should have 4 napkins, 2 green and 2 gold, like that. I'm going to show you with the gold one because I'm on a green tablecloth here. And so you need to start like that, with the folded end at the top and the end with the loose edges at the bottom. And then you fold the first loose edge up almost to the corner but not quite, like that. And then you take each of those 4 loose flaps and fold them up again just a little bit lower than each one, like that. And so you get sort of gold and white stripes, like that, and the final one, like that. It's important that you keep those peaks all the way in a straight line up to there. And so it should look like that. And then you just turn it round, like that, and lay it flat on the table. And then you take, you put a shape like that, you take one side and you fold it over towards the opposite edge to make a nice point at the bottom, so that it looks like that. And then you take the other side and fold it the opposite way. And again, it's very important to keep that peak nice and sharp. You might just have to fiddle with it a little bit to get it right. So then it looks like that. Then you turn it round, that's the right side, and then you start to fold up these peaks to the top, like that. The first one. The next one, fold up a little lower and you tuck it under the flap. So that it looks like that. And then you do the same with each one, tuck it under the flap above. Like that. And then you finally fold up that last corner and tuck it right under to give it a nice straight edge at the bottom. And there you have your Christmas tree. Now you can also do it with linen napkins. I've got a white one here that I've done. You can do it with any napkin actually, just as long as it's square. If it's in any way off square or rectangular, it doesn't work. But if you've got square napkins, you can do it with those as well. So hope you enjoy it.
Well, I hope you enjoyed making your napkin trees. While you're finishing them off, we're going to listen to a talk from Beverly. Now, one of the biggest benefits of doing this all online is that I've had the pleasure of listening to Beverly's talk already, and it's really fantastic. So whether this Christmas is going to look normal for you or not, let's have a little think about the gift of Christmas. And Beverly's going to talk to us all about that.
Good evening and welcome to the Christmas craft evening. I'm Beverly Samways, if we haven't met. I'm Rachel's daughter. Some of you may know Rachel, and I'm Ali's sister as well. So maybe I should tell you a little bit about me. I currently live in Coventry. I have a background working with children with complex disabilities, and I'm currently doing full-time research. I also go to a local church in Coventry where I sometimes do a bit of teaching. So when Lindsay asked me to speak tonight, I was really excited about it, and she was explaining how you're not able to meet in person due to the COVID restrictions, and so instead they were going to put together a video presentation like this, but also that they were going to send each of you a box with some craft items in. I was like really excited about this, and I was asking Lindsay what's going to be inside the box. I was like trying to imagine it. I was trying to imagine each of you getting like a box through the post and what sorts of things would be inside. And I think I spoke to my mum about it as well, and I'm pretty sure I asked her as well, but like what's going to be inside the box? I was like so interested, and eventually I think just to stop me asking all the questions, they sent me one of the boxes that you guys have had through the post as well. So I know what's inside the box, and I know you're going to have a great evening. But I think that like fascination with wanting to know like what was going to be inside the box, that's probably tells you a little bit about how I feel about presents, because I love presents and I love parcels. I love getting like packages through the post. I love birthdays. I love getting gifts, and I also love giving them. So like these are some of my Christmas presents that I've wrapped up for people. And I am like one of those annoying people who just like loves to make the gifts look absolutely gorgeous, so that when you give me one back you feel a bit inadequate. You're just handing me like a ball of sellotape or something. But I absolutely love to make them look gorgeous, and the reason I like to do that is because I like love to add a bit of drama to it, like to increase the anticipation that people look at the present and they really want to open it and they're really excited about what's inside. And I know I'm not the only one like that, because a couple of years ago I turned 40 and my family took me out for a meal in a restaurant, and my sister walked in with this huge present, like the size of a microwave, I guess, like enormous present, walking through the restaurant with it. And Karen, one of my nieces, was walking beside her, and I could see that Karen was really excited about the present. She's like looking at the present, looking at me, looking at the present, looking at me, like absolutely bubbling over with the anticipation that I'm going to open this present. She was almost like bouncing like a tigger about it. And just as Ali gets to the table where we're about to sit, she puts the present down, and Karen like can't keep it in any longer, and she suddenly just bursts out with it. It's got 40 presents inside. And the whole family's like, oh no, Karen, you spoiled the surprise. But I loved this. I loved that she just couldn't hold it in, that it had 40 presents inside, and she really wanted me to know about it, and she couldn't wait for me to open them all. And yeah, so I think I'm a little bit like that with presents and with gifts and boxes and packages. And we're coming up to Christmas, aren't we? So we've started buying presents and wrapping them up, and looking forward to giving and receiving them. And I guess if you've been in church a little while, you've probably heard people say, you know, Christmas, it's not about the tree, and it's not about the turkey, and it's not about the decorations, it's not about snowmen, and it's not about Santa, it's about Jesus. And Jesus is the reason for the season. You might have seen stickers or like wreaths that say that. And part of this like almost little lecture that you might have received, people will often say, it is definitely not about the presents. And I've definitely been in conversations where people have said to me, it is not, definitely not about the presents. And inside I'm secretly thinking, I think I'm a little bit about the presents, to be perfectly honest with you. But like we do give presents at Christmas because the whole Christmas story starts with a gift. It starts with a gift given to Mary. You've probably seen like pictures or images of Mary, the mother of Jesus. She's normally portrayed as like in her late 20s, very serene, like white porcelain skin. She's always wearing blue for some reason. I don't really know why she wears blue in the pictures. She looks very, very calm always. She's like perfect mother, never going to lose it. If we look at the story in the Bible, we know that it was probably a little different from that. So Mary was probably very young. She was probably mid-teens, maybe 15. She was Jewish, so olive-skinned, and she wasn't well educated. She wasn't well known, and she wouldn't have been very wealthy. And she lived in a very ordinary town that had a dubious reputation. So let me retell the story to you of this very ordinary girl receiving an extraordinary gift. And it starts with an angel. So there's loads of angels in the Christmas story, aren't there? They just turn up everywhere. But this is no ordinary angel. This is Gabriel. And the Bible tells us there's two like head angels. So there's Michael, who's the head like warrior angel. She's like proper ninja, really strong, enormous. And then there's Gabriel, who's the head like messenger angel. And he's also really big and strong and very, very important. So you need to like get rid of your images of like tiny naked babies with harps up here and high-pitched voices, and certainly get rid of your images of 3 and 4 year olds and nativity like wearing bed sheets and tinsel around their head and like waving at their mums. This is not the angel we're talking about. You need to think more like Aquaman, like Jason Momoa, absolutely enormous angel, ripped, like just a huge, scary, intimidating angel arriving into the life of this very ordinary teenage girl, Mary. And he comes crashing in and he says to Mary, "Don't be afraid." Very wise. I expect she was terrified. And then he says to her, "You are highly favoured. The Lord is with you." And then he tells Mary that she's going to bear a son and she needs to call him Jesus, and he's going to be great and he's going to be the Son of God. To this very ordinary teenager, something extraordinary is about to happen. And on the inside of Mary begins to grow something that is going to be world-changing. In fact, it will change her world, and it will change the whole world. Because Jesus wasn't just going to be a good leader or a good man or a gifted teacher. He was going to be fully human, flesh and blood like you and me, but also fully God. How could this be? Because God is eternal, right? He's outside of space and time. He's all-powerful, all-loving, the creator God, the one who made the heavens and the earth. Somehow this eternal, immortal, all-powerful, all-knowing God was going to squeeze and squash himself down and find a way into the womb of a 15-year-old girl in an ordinary town. And in this moment, the gap between heaven and earth is bridged as the all-powerful, eternal God of the universe smashes through the gap and arrives in the form of a tiny baby that needs to be fed and changed and raised. God was present in baby Jesus in time and space. This is the Christmas story, that 2,000 years ago, eternal God enters time and space, that the otherness, the holiness of God enters the ordinariness of Mary's world, that the spectacular, awesome, incredible nature of God enters the mundaneness of this very ordinary town. But what does it mean for us? What does it mean for you and me in the here and now, in this strange COVID season? It's been an odd year, hasn't it? Like, we know the walls of our homes probably better than anything else right now. We've been missing people. Some of us have experienced loss and great difficulty. And if any of us thought that we were in control of our lives before, we probably don't think that anymore. Our lives have got slower and smaller and quieter. And I think we've had to face up to our ordinariness and the ordinariness of the world around us. I mean, we're in a society that loves to put people on pedestals, to have people that we can look up to that are glamorous and glitzy and that don't have to deal with the ordinariness of life, to believe that it's possible to live a life where you never have to do any laundry or get ready in the morning or ever have a bad hair day. But COVID has stripped the stages. It's closed the catwalks, the arenas are empty, and suddenly everybody is very ordinary. Even the celebrities are turning up, filming themselves on their own mobile phones, just like you and me, on their sofas wearing their tracksuits. And suddenly the outside of things doesn't look as good as we thought it did. And instead, I think in the quietness, many of us have found ourselves asking ourselves, whether consciously or unconsciously, what's on the inside of me? What's on the inside of me? Maybe in that first lockdown, you found that on the inside of you there was some fear and some anxiety. If you did, then you were in good company. A lot of people experience that. Maybe you've struggled to stay hopeful some days, and maybe more recently in this lockdown 2.0 you've found inside yourself some frustration, maybe even some anger. It's an uncomfortable question during an uncomfortable time. But can I tell you what Christmas is really all about? Because that story of the eternal God breaking through and arriving present on the earth in Mary's world was not a one-time thing. I don't know if you know the story of the rest of the story of Jesus' life, and I know that there will be others that have invited you tonight that can fill in the gap and give you a lot more detail, but I'll give you the edited highlights. Jesus grows up to live an extraordinary life. He heals the sick, he brings freedom to the captive, he fights injustice. He lives an extraordinary life full of grace and truth, full of love. And then he dies an excruciating death on a cross and is laid in a cold tomb. And then he raises back to life again, and in doing so smashes through sin and death. And all of this made a way for the gap between eternity and now to be bridged. For the gap between heaven and earth to be bridged, and the gap between you and God to be bridged permanently. It was not a one-time thing. It was not just Mary's story or just Mary's gift. Through the Holy Spirit, God continues to break into ordinary people's lives and say, do not be afraid. You are highly favoured. God is with you. There's a name of Jesus that we hear a lot at Christmas. It's the name Emmanuel. You've probably seen it on cards. It just means God with us, or as I like to think of it, God is here. Now, he's present. The presence of God remains on the earth today. And it's found in men and women who have found that when the outside wrapping is removed, however spectacular or however ordinary, inside there's a space into which they can invite the God that loves them, the God that bridged the gap between him and them. He comes as Emmanuel, here, now. The presence of Jesus. What's on the inside of you? However ordinary or spectacular the outside, there is probably a space that you find sometimes on the inside. And this is the space into which we invite Jesus. And so maybe this Christmas you can just remember that name of God, Emmanuel. God with us, God with me, God with you, here, now, present. The presence of Jesus. Turns out it was about the presence after all. Thanks so much for listening to me this evening. I know you're going to have a great rest of the evening doing like the crafts together. And I know that any of the team from St Botolph's would love to talk to you further if you had any questions. God be with you this Christmas. Take care.
Thank you so much, Beverly, for that wonderful talk. It gives us a lot to think about while we carry on with our crafts. We're going to move on now to some chocolate reindeers. So I'm particularly looking forward to that. And then we're going to go straight in to the next craft after that.
I hope you were as excited as Beverly was to receive your box. And I'm sure, unlike your Christmas presents, you did immediately open it and have a look what was in the box. But I hope that you resisted the temptation to eat the chocolates, because the next craft involves the chocolates that were in the box. So I'm going to show you how to make this little chap. In fact, you can make 3 of him, Rudolph and his friends, and then use him however you want to over Christmas, maybe on a table decoration, or maybe make a hanger for the tree, or whatever you want to do with him. So in your box you've got this packet with these things in, and when you empty it out, be careful, because the thing that you might lose are the eyes. The eyes are very tiny and there should be 6 of them. So be very careful that you still have 6 self-adhesive eyes for your reindeer. You should have 3 pieces of brown card. You should have 1 piece of white card, 3 strips of glue dots, and a template. And because I found cutting the template out the fiddliest bit, I've given you a spare one as well, just in case. But you only really need 1 of these for all your reindeer. So the first thing you're going to do is take the template and cut it out. So you're going to cut around the reindeer face and the reindeer antlers, being careful to observe where it says the fold line. So you're not going to cut off Rudolph's neck. I'll explain what I mean in a minute. So cut round your Rudolph with your scissors, and when you've done that, you will have this, and you'll still have a little neck at the bottom. The reason you've got that is because we're going to cut round it so that you end up with a double Rudolph, and you want a little bit that's going to help him stand up. We'll see that in a minute. Okay, and when you've done that, you're going to need to cut out the circle for the nose as well. I think the easiest way of doing that is to fold it over and cut round that way in the middle until you've got a circle there in the middle, and you've got a hole. Mine's not very round. You might need to neaten that up a little bit. Okay, so when you've got that, you're then going to take 1 of your brown pieces of paper, and you're going to fold the brown card, fold the brown card in half that way. So you've got a fold line here. This is the fold line that you're going to put your template along. So that goes right up to the bottom. So you're going to cut round it from the bottom and then ends up with when you open it up, he'll be like that. So you'll need a pair of scissors or a pen. If you don't have one to hand, there is a pencil in the next craft packet that you could quickly get out if you want to, but anything to draw around it. And you're going to draw around like this till you've got just on one side. Now what you've got to be careful of now is that the hole for the nose, hole for the nose is only going to be cut out of one side. So when you've cut him out like this, only cut the round hole in one piece. So this is again probably the fiddliest bit, so be careful cutting out his nose. You might want to take a bit more care than I have there, spend a bit longer on it. So you'll end up with this. And when you get down, you're going to very carefully fold where you have the chin. Okay. And that means that when you stick it together in a minute, he'll be able to stand up. Okay. Right. So now you're going to cut out your antlers using the same method, using the white card. You're going to cut out from your template so that you've got two templates, and you're going to cut out from your white card, and you'll end up with two white antlers. So I don't think I need to do that for you. Now they are going to stick on inside the face. That's where you need the glue dots. So carefully peel back and get the glue dots off your greaseproof paper. Stick on here, and then you're going to put these, well, think about where you want them first, and then stick them on the inside so that when you close it up, they're hidden inside. Okay, so you need two glue dots for that, and you'll need another glue dot then. They are pretty sticky. It's a modern equivalent of double-sided sticky tape for speed. You need another one to close up the front and the back. Now you should need 4 glue dots per reindeer, and we've given you a couple of spares, so it should be fine. Then that just leaves the eyes, which are self-adhesive, to stick on. Now, they're all different sizes. They actually look quite good if you put 2 different sizes together. They can look quite googly, and it's quite endearing, but I mean, that's up to you. Dear, I'm having a bit of trouble getting the back of the eye off. Maybe we'll have 2 big ones. Okay, there we go. And then the final step is to stick your chocolate inside there. And again, you've got another glue dot still spare in order to keep that in place. And you might want to fiddle around with that a bit till you get it just where you want it to make it stand up. I fiddled around with this one for a little while to get the glue dot in the right place to help him to stand up straight. So get yourself another glass of mulled wine and happy crafting.
Hi, I'm Lindsay and another one of the team that puts together this event. We have a lot of fun during the year looking for crafts to do and then deciding on some, so I hope you liked the ones that we selected for tonight. Now what we're on to is the paper decorations, which you'll find the instructions on the back of your homemade Christmas leaflet. I have to say it doesn't look very exciting in the flat pack, but we chose this because we thought it was classy and simple and effective, and I think you'll be impressed when you see what it is you're going to make. So there's an example of one. You've all got different colours in your pack, and you can experiment with them too. So the first thing you need to do is to take your 3 pieces of card that match. So here's 3. They should all be the same. You need to make sure the pattern's lined up in the same direction, and then on the back you need to draw lines. Now I'm suggesting that they're 14 centimetres long and 2 centimetres wide, and then if you notice I've put a hole in the middle of about 1 centimetre in from the edge on each side. You're going to then cut all of those out, and that hole, that black mark that you've made, you need something like this. This is a bradawl from the toolbox, but anything like you know, an old biro or something, maybe a kebab skewer or something like that would make the hole. Then you're going to take a wire. So you need 18 pieces of card. Then you're going to take a wire, and I've bent it over at the end like that, and then I've threaded on a few beads. I'm going to do exactly the same beads when I get to the top as I've done at the bottom. And then the next thing you do is you put on one of your paper discs, either in a matching pattern or a contrasting pattern, then all the pieces of card, and then you bend it over into an arc and thread it through at the top end like that. Now, from experimenting with these, I've discovered that that wire there needs to be quite straight and taut. If you do it like that, it won't fan out very well. So make that quite tight. Then put on your disc, then your beads, same way as you had them before. And then fold it over at the top. Now I would expect that I might need to cut this wire, which I'm going to do later on, because I want it to be about like that shape. And then it's just as easy as this. You just fan it out. You fan out all your bits of card till they sort of just about touch each other, and you keep going, and you keep going, and you keep going, and there you go. Looks great, doesn't it? So here's a few more examples. Let me take a different colour off my tree. There's a 2-tone one. Now, if you fancy making a 2-tone one, I just warn you, it's quite hard to make them stay exactly where you want them to stay. But it's worth experimenting, and here's another one that I showed you at the beginning. I think they look great. Now, you could use them anywhere. If you're like some of the people they keep telling us on the TV and you put your Christmas tree up already, you could have them on your Christmas tree. You could have them in a bowl on the dining room table. You can make huge ones and hang them from the lights. And from what I've seen, you can use old Christmas cards or wallpaper. And I bought the card in Coleman's and in the Works. So when they all open again, you could go and have another go. So I hope you're impressed with what you make, and I hope you have lots of fun and have a lovely evening.
Well, there you have it. That's all of our crafts finished for this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. I really hope that you enjoyed it. Perhaps you could speak to a Christian friend that you know about anything that has struck you from Beverly's talk. Isn't it wonderful to know that even in this weird and strange and very different Christmas that we're having, that Jesus came down every Christmas, no matter what it looks like, to be with us. In the box that you've got is a leaflet called Christmas in a COVID World, and another with possible information about church services. But obviously, as the situation in the country changes, and you'll need to keep checking the St Botolph's website for up-to-date details about Christmas services. Don't forget to send us your photos of your crafts and who you got to do them with, if you were able to meet with anybody. Have a lovely Christmas and happy crafting.
Come, all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant. Come ye to Bethlehem. Come and behold him, born the King of angels. Come, let us adore him. Come, let us adore him. Come, let us adore